Hey y'all, welcome back to our very bookish channel, and welcome to another most anticipated releases video. We are going to be talking about most anticipated releases for July and August of 2026, and Jen and I get so excited about these videos. If you haven't seen them before, they are some of our most popular videos, so chances are if you've seen our channel, then you have seen some of them before. But in case you have not, every 2 months we go over the next 2 months of releases and the ones that we are most excited for. These are very long videos, but I do put timestamps in the description. So if you want to just browse the books and click on the ones that you're most interested in and see, what we think about them, why we're excited about them, what they're about, then please feel free to do that. You don't have to watch the entire video. Of course, we would love it for you to watch the entire video, but we understand it's a very long video and you might not be interested in all of the books. We do cover a variety of genres: fantasy, romantasy, mystery, thriller, general fiction, horror, some romance. So there is a little bit of everything, a little bit of something for everyone, I feel like, in these videos.
Hi everybody, it's Jen, and welcome to our most anticipated for July and August. I hope everyone's summer has been going well and everyone's having fun vacationing and whatever fun things you want to do, especially if you have fun books and books that you love to take with you on vacation. It's one of the best parts of vacation. And in these 2 months, I have about the same amount. It feels like a little less because I have pared it down a tad. I didn't want to put things on here that I was just a little unsure of. I was a little pickier this time. We are putting these books that we want to read for most anticipated in our TBR jars. This year we have been picking out of the TBR jar for our videos to go over each month. We are doing a summer TBR that should be out, I would think, before this, but it might be right around the same time as this. We try and read through all the books that we are most anticipating and doing shorts this year. I'm gonna start, there's a lot on July 7th to start off and kick off this most anticipated. And the first one looks very summery on the cover. It's called Crash Into Me by Robinne Lee. And I haven't read anything by Robinne Lee. There was a book and then it was turned into, I want to say it was either a movie or a series called The Idea of You. I didn't see that, but it was very popular, so there was a lot of anticipation in general for this book. And this one is about a woman who gets into a car accident, and after that car accident, she ends up seeing a model, is how it's described in the description, on the side of the road. But what happens is, I think they end up talking and getting involved, and she ends up being torn between this idea of this sensuous affair and the responsibility of her life. Very much sounds like a beach read that you would just get lost into, and I plan on reading this. I don't know if I'll get it done in time to do an ARC review, but if I do, keep an eye out for an ARC review on Crash Into Me.
I have on July 7th, Helpless by Jessica Knoll. Now, Jessica Knoll wrote Luckiest Girl Alive, which I read and did not love, okay? It was just okay for me. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. But this book sounded so interesting. This book's about a woman who broke her college boyfriend's heart, and they both go their separate ways, move on with their lives. She gets married, she becomes very successful, and then when a professor that they had passes away, she bumps into him again at the funeral, and he kidnaps her. So crazy little turn of events there. That sounded very intriguing to me. I think the longer too that he kidnaps her, she starts feeling feelings for him and then getting confused about her life. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from that, because he's very clearly at least morally gray, if not crazy, protagonist. So we'll see what happens there, but I thought that sounded really good concept for a thriller.
The next is a crime thriller, and it's called Don't Look Away by Daniel Kenitz. And it's a harrowing domestic crime thriller. And it's about former defense attorney Leslie, who is forced out of retirement to defend her husband. They are retired in Florida, and there's a serial murder case happening on Florida's Gulf Coast. And then the serial murderer messes up, and an 8-year-old sees his face. But when she goes home, she finds out that her husband's been arrested. And there's a lot of evidence that isn't adding up. It's not making any sense. So as she gets into the investigation of it and helping her husband, more and more is coming up with unanswered questions. And it sounded really interesting. I'm always up for crime thrillers, so I added that to the list. Again, on July 7th, there's one called The Season of Sinking, and it's by Daphne Woolsoncroft. There was a book that she had written, I think it was last year, that I had really wanted to read, and I haven't had a chance to read yet, and I forgot. I didn't write it down. I can put it on the screen real quick. But this one, The Season of Sinking, is when Imogen's mother suddenly passes away. She returns to Lake Blair, where she grew up. She and her twin sister begin to pick up their mom's house, and strange things start happening. Events from when she was younger and details around her mom's death cause her to try to figure out what really happened. There's something that happened when she was younger, and then it's seemingly tied to what happened with her mom and just strange happenings in the town. What's funny is there's another thriller at the end in August that is also about sisters going home after I think it's the mother again passing away, might be a grandmother in that one, and they are packing up the house and strange things start happening. So there seems to be a theme I've noticed when I was going through the books I'm going to be talking about, of definitely returning back to home. I feel like that's a common one, but inheritance is another one, and seemingly sisters and siblings and strange things happening. It seems to be the common theme that I've noticed when I've been picking what I'm going to go over for most anticipated. Again, on July 7th is Infinite Love Story, and it's by Chanel Cleeton. And this one is kind of like a historical fiction, but also seems to be kind of speculative fiction, and there seems to be kind of a fantastical element to it. It's about an astronaut lost in space during 1960 space race, and the wife is reliving their love story as she is grappling with what is happening because he ends up like disappearing or getting lost when he's in space. That was the part I didn't understand what happens, and maybe you're not meant to know until you're reading the book. It says it has a magical realism aspect, and she's getting messages that could only be from her husband Joe, but obviously he can't be sending them because he's in space. She wonders if their love can go beyond the parameters of space and time. It sounded really like not just a sweet tale, but I love those like mixed genres, magical realism type books, so I thought this would be one that I'd want to read, and I added it to my TBR. The next is also on July 7th, and I've been wanting to read this one a lot. I am surprised I haven't gotten to it yet. It might end up being relatively soon because I really want to read it. And it's by an author that I have just loved the other two books I have read by her. This one's called The Man, and the author is Laura Sims. I read both How Can I Help You, which was a New York Times best thriller of the year, and there was another one that I kicked off 2026 with, and I just happened upon it. I wasn't even looking for the book, and it was called Looker. It was something that was suggested like at the end of an audiobook, and I just absolutely loved it. But this one is another one that takes place in the 1960s, and that was another theme that I noticed with the books that I was gathering for this. There are several books that either take place in the 60s or it's referring back to the 1960s, just like the previous book with the astronaut. This is a domestic suspense novel, and it's about a 1960s housewife turned amateur photographer. And she begins to fear for her life as she notices a dark silhouette of a man in the background of her self-portraits that she's taking. She is certain that he is the attacker from her past, come back to do, I don't know, finish the job maybe. Chilling and heart-pounding propulsive, and it sounds like something I'm gonna absolutely love, and I can't wait to read it. Definitely look for an ARC review for me for that. The next one I feel like I've had on my TBR for a while, and it's still July 7th, and it's called Every Version of You by Natalie Messier. And it's about Joey Vazquez, and she's 32 and a successful lawyer, but her personal life is a disaster. After a dinner party with her best friend, who she's been pining for, it goes awry, and she gets a second chance and finds herself in college again. And it says for fans of Ashley Poston's 7-Year Slip and The Love of My Afterlife. So I feel like it's interesting, the two books it refers to. The 7-Year Slip, I know, was, again, like magical realism romance, and there's like a time difference where like a future person is talking to someone who is in the past as if that's happening, you know, right now. And The Love of My Afterlife makes me think that this might be something about like either she died and this is happening, but I have had several books that I feel use that like time thing, because there's a Sophie Cousins book that I love that also has that dynamic to it. And it's almost like, I don't know, that one also reminded me of Big, by the movie by Tom Hanks. But this one sounded interesting, and it's been a long time that they keep saying that's coming out, so I don't know if it got pushed. I don't know what's going on with why it took so long to come out, but I plan on reading that.
Moving on to July 14th, and I do have 4 books on July 14th, so July 14th is kind of a busy for me. But the first book I want to talk about is Dominion by Jean Kwok, and I hope I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. But this book kind of drew my attention because it was being compared as a Chinese mythology fourth wing combined with Hunger Games. And I hope I don't regret putting this on my list, because I really have not enjoyed books that have copied Hunger Games, because Hunger Games was just so great and fantastic. That's like a super high bar to set. And it just seems like when books have Hunger Game aspects to them, it's really hard to live up to that expectation in my mind. So I hope I don't regret this, but it's about a woman who lives in a world where there are 4 dominions, and these 4 dominions are fighting each other. And she lives in the tiger dominion, and when a battle tiger comes to her door, she accidentally kills it, I believe with magic that she has but can't control, or can't unlock it. And so she kills this tiger, and her punishment for that is that she has to participate in these tiger trials, where a tiger will pick a person to bond to, and if they don't pick you to bond with, then they end up killing you. So it's a very brutal, ruthless. I think that's kind of the Hunger Games aspect that they're talking about when they're comparing it to Hunger Games. And then once she gets bonded, she has to figure out how to unlock her magic and save these 4 dominions. So I feel like that's a lot about that book seemed interesting to me, and although it seems very interesting and very cool, I do want to try it. I am a little bit guarded just because it feels like a lot of the same stuff that I've read before, and it's been compared to Hunger Games. So that's a tall order in my mind. We'll see how this goes. The next book on July 14th is Hot Girl Murder Club by Ashley Windstead. Ashley Windstead is an author that I will probably always want to try to read. I did not enjoy her last book so much. It was called, the last book I read, it wasn't the last book she came out with, but the last book I read of hers, it was more of like a true crime, couch detective type novel. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but I didn't enjoy that one as much as I did The Housewives or something, one of her first books that we read, and we did vlog. It was one of our first vlogs, and I really enjoyed that book. So this book is about a woman whose sister is murdered in Hollywood, and in order to figure out what happened to her sister, she kind of embeds herself in Hollywood as sort of a mid-level actress, and she becomes friends with other women that have these very dark ambitions as far as Hollywood goes, and I think the description just leaves it at that, so take that with what you will. But she makes friends with these girls, and she starts to kind of piece together what's going on with her sister, exact her revenge. But there's a slew of murders in Hollywood, and she becomes the #1 suspect. So that throws a real kink in her plans. So that sounded like very fun, very interesting, and I want to read it. I will always probably try to give Ashley Winstead a try, regardless of if I like all her books or not, because I enjoyed the one book so much. The next book for July 14th I actually got a physical art for, and it's called Among the Thorns by Jennifer K. Lambert. And I read Never the Roses by Jennifer K. Lambert, and I'm gonna tell you guys, the writing is so beautiful. This is the second book in the series. I think it's a standalone it's an interconnected standalone with Never the Roses. It's following 2 different characters, but it's in the same world. I don't know if you have to read them in order. I won't know until I read this, then I can let you guys know. This book is described as 2 sorceresses clash to steal the heart of Prince Charming. So you have Rose. Rose is the only known dream sorceress in this realm. And so she is very valuable. She's very beautiful. She's very talented, very smart. And she has the prince chasing after her like crazy. And then hidden away in a cottage, you kind of get like a Rapunzel vibe, is a sorceress named Thorn. And she is also a dream sorceress, but no one knows about her. She finds out about Rose, and she realizes she's not the only one, and she wants to break out of her isolation. And so she gets out, and they come face to face, and they start sort of battling it out, because they realize when they meet each other that only one of them is going to be able to live a life of freedom with the prince, and one of them is going to be banished to isolation. So they start, competing. And that just sounded like so fun. It is a little love triangle-y, which I don't usually like, but it seems like in this setup, I'm really going to like it. So we're going to see, but I know that the writing's going to be beautiful. I know that I like this world, and I'm very excited to read this, and so thankful that I was able to get a physical ARC from the publisher. My final book for July 14th is Death Row Club by V.A. Vazquez. This book is interesting to me. Y'all, I'm always probably going to be interested in thrillers that revolve around children of serial killers. I don't know why, but I think it's just the unreliable narrator aspect of it, because you just never know what's going on in their head, what they've been through, what they've seen, how they've grown up. And obviously it's a very traumatic life for them. So this book is about a weekend getaway for adult children of serial killers. So it's also locked door mystery. So I also do really like locked door mysteries. And so these adults, children of serial killers, go away for a weekend, and of course someone ends up dead, and you just never know which one of them it is. So I thought that concept sounded pretty cool, and I obviously have never read this author before. This actually might be a debut for this author. I'm not sure about that, but I thought when I was reading about this book, it said something about a debut. I could be wrong, but it seems like that might be the case. Anyways, really excited for this one, and when I am in the mood for a kind of dark, gritty locked door mystery, I'm definitely gonna pick this one up.
I don't have anything for July 14th. I go all the way to July 21st, and the next one is called 3 Reasons for Revenge by Dervla McTiernan. Publishers Weekly says this is jaw-dropping and will keep readers up all night, which is definitely up my alley. It's a gripping high-stakes novel of suspense about 3 seemingly unconnected people caught in a lethal web of deceit and unhealed wounds. Alexis walks into a police station to report an assault. By the end of the day, she is nowhere to be found. And then after that, 3 packages show up at 3 different individuals' homes who don't seem to have any connection to each other. A respected psychologist, a socialite's mansion, and a struggling single father's apartment. Detective Sergeant Judith Lee is trying to make the connections between all these events and realizes she's being forced to play a game. I felt like that sounded a little different from anything I've read recently, and I think that it has really compelling different types of situations going on in that description, so I was definitely interested in reading that.
July 21st, 3 Reasons for Revenge. This book seemed really cool. Again, an author I've never heard of before, but this is I'm thinking it's a dark thriller. You're also following a detective, so it's going to be sort of a detective dark thriller. A woman walks into a police station to report an assault, and then she goes missing. And then 3 packages show up on 3 different people's doors, and these packages blow their life apart. It just starts ruining their lives, whatever's in these packages. It doesn't say in the description, and the detective is trying to piece everything together. I love a good dark, gritty detective mystery, so this sounded very interesting to me. And the way the description was written, to be honest with you, I'm just very curious. I want to know what was in the boxes, and what's going on with the missing girl, and how are all 3 of these people connected, because one is just a single father, just very average, living in an apartment. One is a billionaire, the other one is a psychologist, so they're just very different, and how are they all connected? So I think the description really pulled me in on this one. The next book on July 21st is A Kiss of Hammer and Flame by Amy De La Force. I do have an ARC of this book, but I feel like I've seen this in Walmart. So I think the book is not a strict on sale and it's already out if you want to go out and get your hands on it. It sounds very interesting. It is the first book in the Fated for Halil book series, and it's about a young woman who's a blacksmith, which I think is pretty cool. A female blacksmith, I think that's pretty cool. But she forges this sword, and the way that she makes this sword, it awakens an immortal, and everyone gets all shook up over this, and they start hunting her because they want to own this sword that she made. So she goes on the run, and it says something about, can she trust this person, Terry, this person who is helping her along, and get through this wilderness and stay on the run. So it is gonna be a journey book, which I enjoy. I know not everyone enjoys the journeys in books, but I do enjoy the fantasy books with a good journey, going through different types of lands and encountering different types of creatures. I think that that's entertaining and very fun to read. It also mentioned something about a love triangle and fated mates. So I'm very curious about that because it only mentions one potential love interest, unless Halil, which is the immortal that's awakened, is also a love interest. That might be interesting. But love triangles, again, are not really always my thing, but they seem to be increasing in popularity, and I seem to be finding more and more interesting books that have them, so I am gonna give this book a try. I'm probably not gonna be able to read it before the release date and do an ARC review, but I do really, really want to get to this book sometime in the near future. My final book on July 21st is a book that I wouldn't normally leave in a most anticipated because it's the second book of a series and I have not read the first book yet. But this book is called Prince of Swords by Elise Kova, and this is the sequel to Arcana Academy, and I have not read Arcana Academy yet. But I really want to. I just feel like it's a book I'm really gonna like. Of course, that can bite me in the butt sometimes. But I am anticipating the second book coming out, and maybe I will try to read them back to back after the second book comes out, because I really do just like binging my series, because I just like to keep going in the series if they're good series, and keep going while everything is fresh in my mind. Since I haven't read the first book and don't know much about the second book, I'm just going to read the description because I don't want to drop any spoilers, and I don't want to maybe jump to conclusions about the book that could be spoilery. So I'm just going to read the description real quick. Clara Greysword is Orcalis's most wanted. Hunted and cornered, not even her mastery of tarot can save her this time, until the mysterious World Keepers appear. This secretive order may hold the key to changing Clara's fate, if she dares to trust them. But the most dangerous alliance of all is the one she's already deeply ensnared within, Prince Kellis. Kellis, second-born prince of Orcellus, is headmaster of Arcana Academy, is the one man she can't escape. Maybe she doesn't want to escape. Ruthless, dangerous, and bound to Clara by destiny and desire, Kellis tests her heart as much as her loyalty. Together they grow closer to the most powerful secrets of the tarot and to the truths they both hide that could destroy the passion that they no longer deny. Hidden in plain sight within Arcana Academy, Clara walks the dagger's edge. Revelations about Orcellus threaten everything she thought she knew, and every choice she makes is the difference between salvation and ruin. To change the world, Clara must risk everything: her power, her beliefs, and her heart. So there you go. That sounds so good, even though I have not read the first book yet. That just sounds so good, and I'm really, really anxious to start, especially because I own Arcana Academy. I did buy it when it came out and just have not read it yet. So again, it's just another book on my never-ending TBR.
The next goes to July 28th, and me and Amanda plan on doing a video for Daggermouth by H.M. Wolfe. It looks really interesting. It's coming out as a traditionally published book. It has already been out as a author published edition. This one is one that the author got a publisher deal for, and we do have ARCs for it. I have a digital ARC, which is advanced reading copy. It's set in a corrupt surveillance state ruled by the masked elite. Enemies to lovers, dystopian romance, a mercenary who botches the assassination of the president's son and ends up forced to marry him. Said the quote in the description, "Love outside your ring is a death sentence." I wouldn't say I'm always drawn to a dystopian romance or dystopian novel. Have read several that I really like, but sometimes I feel like it just can be so dark and depressing that I don't always gravitate towards them. But something about this book and this description has been making me want to read it. There's been a lot of dialogue online, a lot of people talking about how great it is. We definitely decided to read it. Make sure you keep an eye out for our video on Daggermouth.
Moving on to July 28th, this next book I'm so excited for. It's called Just for the Plot by Meghan Quinn. This is book 2 in the Bay Area Players series. The first book I read and really had such a good time reading. It's called Just for the Cameras. And in this story, you're following Bennett, who is a side character in Just for the Cameras that you get introduced to. And he's in love with his sister's best friend, but his sister's best friend just sees them as just friends. She sort of friend zoned him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him really work hard to try to win her over. And I've read 2 Meghan Quinn books, and both of the books have kind of followed the same formula where there's a lot of yearning and a lot of winning over, and it's not a very fast. It's a slow burn romance. These characters don't really start hooking up or really admitting feelings for each other until about 60 or 70% into the book. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that part of the dating and the winning over and the yearning and all of that. I think that that's very fun to read. So I have not been disappointed by a Meghan Quinn book yet. And I am looking forward to following up Just for the Cameras with this sequel, Just for the Plot.
Also on July 28th is another Shari Lapena. I am a big Shari Lapena fan. This is her 10th thriller coming out, and it's called Getting Away with Murder. And it will be the 6th one that I've read by her. I have read Couple Next Door, which was the first one I read by her. Everyone Here Is Lying, A Stranger in the House, She Didn't See It Coming, and What Have You Done? She does domestic thrillers, I feel like, very, very well. She always sucks me into it. There's only been one that I was kind of ho-hum on, but for the most part, I absolutely love her books. They just suck me in. This one's about a couple that love their brownstone in New York, and they seem like very selfish people, I guess is the only way to say it. Very materialistic, because they have such a love for this building and their home. They are potentially going to lose it because the husband, I think his name is Ted. Yeah, Ted, the inheritance that he had is running out, and he made a really bad investment. In order for them to keep their brownstone, they come up with a scheme to murder another family member who is wealthy so that they can get another inheritance. And as I said a little while ago, inheritance seems to be one of the themes in the books that I'm picking, but I just started this book. I'm only, I think, a chapter in. It might be 2 chapters in. Do plan on doing an ARC review, so keep an eye out for that.
The next book on July 28th, I'm so excited about. I've actually already read, and I have an ARC review filmed for this. I just need to get it edited and posted, and that's One Shattered Crown by Rebecca Zanetti. This is the 3rd book in a series that she does based off of fairy tale characters. First book was One Cursed Rose, so that's the first book that you want to read starting the series. This is the 3rd book, and y'all, this series is so fun. I cannot say enough about this series. It's mafia romance mixed with urban fantasy, and the magic in mixed with the fairy tales. Of course, each of the main female characters is a fairy tale princess, and there's fairy tale themes throughout the book. And the fantasy part, the magic of the fantasy park is these gemstones power social media networks, and certain people can power these gemstones. So certain people, these families that run these social media empires, are the only ones that can power these stones, which run the networks. So it's very fun. It's rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers usually. There's a lot of yearning in the beginning and lots of winning over, but these families that run these empires are also sort of mafia families. The men in these books are very morally gray, very dark characters. They are very cutthroat, very ruthless, touch her and you die type characters. So love that about these books.
We're now up to August 4th, and I know I just said I don't tend to do dystopian, but there is another dystopian on my list. And this one's called The Season of Light and Darkness by Jillian Cantor. It's a type of genre I don't typically pick, which is young adult. So it's a young adult dystopian thriller. A girl is woken from a cryogenic sleep to find authoritarian rules still exist, and she had hoped to escape. And it wasn't just her, it was her and her family. They had intended to be in this sleep for 10 years, but someone wakes her up at 3 years and she's alone. Her family is missing, and the boy that lived next door to her, I think she kind of had a crush on him, or he was her boyfriend. She doesn't know if she can trust him, and she ends up going on the run, I think with him. That part I wasn't sure on, but she wants to see if her family's still alive, and she's trying to get away from this authoritarian rule. It said for fans of Divergent and The Handmaid's Tale, and that definitely seemed up my alley. There have been young adult books I've loved. Divergent was one of them. I love The Hunger Games. Rebecca Ross had written a couple books that I absolutely love for young adult. I'm curious to see if this one will be really good, and if it is, I will do an ARC review for you guys.
So I'm moving on to August, and the next book on my list coming out August 4th is called The Lunatics by Navessa Allen. And you guys, I'm guarded with this one. I really hope I don't regret putting this one on my list. Navessa Allen has really disappointed me in her last 2 books. I loved Lights Out, and I did not really enjoy the next 2 books in that series much at all. So I don't know. I think because I liked Lights Out so much that I want to keep giving her chances. But this book is different. This is not contemporary romance. This is a werewolf romance. And there's also witches and vampires. So I want to give her another try and see where she goes with sort of supernatural or fantasy elements and what happens within this book. But I think, honestly, if this book also doesn't work out for me, I might try to just not read Navessa Allen anymore. Kind of feel like the 3 strike rule maybe with Navessa Allen. Maybe I'll love this one and keep wanting to read her, but if this one's a strike, then I might try to just quit trying to read this author.
Next on August 4th is an author I've been wanting to get back to for a very long time. And when I looked to see if I ended up reading, because I couldn't remember if it was just one book I read by him, and it's still just one book I read by him, and it was called Double Bind, and the author is Chris Bohjalian. And I think I discovered him because Jodi Picoult had suggested him. She often will tell people the books that she feels are really good, and she suggests some really good books. And I really enjoyed the Double Bind. But for some reason, even though I have a lot of want to read by him on my Goodreads TBR, I haven't actually read another one. I haven't even started one. I'm hoping that this will be the one to break the curse, and hopefully it'll be as good as I remember Double Bind being. This one's called The Amateur, and it's about a young woman, a golf prodigy. She's a teenager who accidentally kills a caddy with a stray ball at a country club, and the investigation into this freak accident uncovers dark and shocking tales of secret affairs, predatory men in this spellbinding novel. I just really enjoyed his writing. I am a fan of fiction, but I feel like there has been like this dark edge, a dark like psychological edge to what he had written in Double Bind. And there's so many books that I want to read by him, but since this one is coming out August 4th and I do have an electronic ARC, this might be the one I end up reading, and I can do an ARC review, and keep an eye out for that.
Also on July 4th is Of Shadows and Blood by Ivy Rose. In this book, you have Liv. Liv is an average woman. She has some conflicting feelings, kind of confusion around feelings she has for her neighbor next door. One day she falls out of a tree and goes unconscious, and when she wakes up, she's in a completely different realm with vampires who believe that she is going to be their next queen and help rule their kingdom. And so the king of the vampires is, you know, trying to win her over, and it seems like she starts also amongst this confusion developing feelings for him. and she then needs to like decide, you know, which world she wants to live in. At least that's what I got from the description of this book. And I thought that that was interesting because you're getting a human world and a vampire world and someone that's between the two of them. So I thought that I hadn't read a book like that before. I've read books where vampires are in the real world, and of course I've read books where there's fairies and fae and vampires and werewolves and things in their own world, but I've never really had a book that has combined the two. So I thought that that sounded interesting concept, and I'm really interested in seeing if this book turns out to be a really good book or not.
Also on August 4th, there's one called You'll Be Sorry by Lisa Gardner. And it's another author that I haven't yet read. She does do thrillers, and it's kind of surprising to me that I haven't read her yet. There are a few authors like that. This one is about a newlywed couple who married just after a few months of knowing each other and obviously have secrets that they haven't told each other. It seems like a common trope when there is a couple that haven't known each other that long and they get married. An abandoned lodge they decide to move into in New Hampshire to start their new life has a decades-old mystery tied to this place. A family had disappeared, leaving a trail of bloody footprints. And I think the mystery ends up coming up, obviously, as they go into this lodge. It sounds really like a typical thriller, domestic type thriller that I really love, so I added it to the list.
The next book on August 4th is The Unknown by Riley Sager. I know Jen is probably going to have this one on her most anticipated as well, so I'm going to keep this short. I have enjoyed every single Riley Sager book that I have read. I have not read them all, but I have really enjoyed all of them. The only one left has been my favorite. And this one, though, I think has the potential to take that one out of my favorite spot. In this one, there's a woman who is a struggling actress, and she gets a job where she's going to film on this island. And she has to go out to this island to do a little bit of research. And there's lots of mysteries around this island. There's missing women, and there's lots of different theories on how they went missing, and it feels like this story is going to have like ghosts and supernatural elements to it. It talks about a seance gone wrong. It just seems very dark, very mysterious, a perfect fall read. It is coming out in August, but I think this is going to be like such a fun fall read. I might want to read this one with the J.H. Marker book that's coming out, because those just sound like they would go together very well. And I don't know, it sounds like a really good book, and I'm really super excited about it.
Next is August 4th again. It's The Unknown by Riley Sager. Me and Amanda do plan on doing an ARC review, I believe a joint ARC review for this. I'm not sure if we're going to do a vlog for this arc and potentially maybe read another one of his backlists like we did for Lisa Jewell. I did read one of his backlists recently during the summer vlog that isn't out yet because we have a few in the pipeline. I have read the only one left, in Middle of the Night, and the one I read recently was called The Last Time I Lied. I loved all of those books. But last year I read With a Vengeance, and I was not as big a fan of that one, to the point that I almost didn't want to pick up another Riley Sager, which is crazy that I felt that strongly, but I can't get into it because it would definitely be ruining plot points to that book. But this one sounds definitely really interesting. And it takes place again in like a dual timeline. It's 1926, 5 women disappeared from a remote island in Vermont. And then 100 years later, obviously in 2026, it's happening again. In 1926, those were 5 women mediums who had presumably held a seance that introduced like a supernatural being that may have either murdered them or did something to them. Current day, a movie cast is researching their movie about that island, and they end up going to that island to research, and the disappearances and weird things happen all over again. It caught my interest. I do want to read it. We will be doing at least that one, I think, for the ARC review. I'm going to talk to Amanda about if we're going to be reading another Riley Sager book. Also, again, on August 4th, There's a book called The Woman in White, and it's by Sarah Pekkanen. She had written a couple books with Greer Hendricks, and I had read The Golden Couple and An Anonymous Girl, and I really enjoyed both of those. This is just her. And again, this one sounded like it just caught my interest. It had a synopsis that just really made me want to read it. And it's a dual timeline again, and it's the 1960s, and 4 women who became subjects of parapsychology's experiments, and then those women vanish. Current day, there's someone named Riley who takes a caretaker job for an elderly widow named Betty. And Riley has a quest to uncover the truth as to what happened. I don't know if he somehow knows Betty is one of those women that disappeared, or if he ends up finding that out. But it definitely sounded like something that I would love, and I definitely want to read it.
On August 11th, one of my favorite authors, Karen Slaughter, is releasing another book. This is the second book in the North Falls mystery series. It's called The Secrets We Hide. And in this book, you're following Sheriff Emmy, who is the sheriff in the first book. It takes place in the same town, North Falls. And in this story, you are following a murder of a mother and her teenage daughter, who she's not dead. It says that she's bleeding out and left for dead. So we don't know if the teenage daughter dies, but the mother is definitely shot and killed. And the Sheriff Emmy is trying to solve this mystery, and it just says there's lots of secrets that this mother and daughter are hiding, and I think those end up coming to light in the course of trying to solve the mystery around the mother's murder. So if you all have never read Karen Slaughter before, it's very dark, very like police procedural type thrillers. They are disturbing. There's not body gore, but there can be very descriptive scenes at morgues, or very descriptive like police talk scenes of a crime. So I wouldn't say it's like where you're witnessing the crime and the torture necessarily in the books, but they are very descriptive and can be very gory in a descriptive sense. So they're so good, y'all. I love Karen Slaughter. I need to reread the first couple of books of the Will Trent series and then finish the rest of the series, because I did read the first 3 or 4 books years ago, and I really want to reread them and get back into them, because I do miss Karen Slaughter and her writing and her gritty mystery novels. I just like them so much, and I can't wait to read the follow-up to We Are All Guilty Here. I can't wait to read this book.
We're on to August 11th, and I feel like it's already starting to go into what fall reads you would want to read, because it's getting close to September and October. This one is called Bonfire and Bliss Bookstore, and it's by Brittany Nicole. It's number 2 in a series. The first one was called Darling Daffodil Farm, which I feel like I heard about. I don't know if you necessarily have to read that one before the second one. I might end up doing that depending. But it's a fall romance, friends to lovers, fake dating romance about a jilted romance bookstore owner and her handsome failed writer best friend. He comes home because he really failed at whatever book he had released. It didn't do well. And he starts to pretend to date this bookstore owner because they had been friends, and he wants her to teach him about romance. He figures she knows because she owns this bookstore. She really starts to fall for him, but she doesn't know if he feels the same way about her. And I love to put romances in with all the dark that I read, because it's such a great balance of the dark and the light. I might do an arc review if I get a chance, but we'll see. But keep your eyes open for that.
On August 11th, Olivia Blake is coming out with a new book called Dreamland. I did read the Atlas 6. I didn't really like it. I didn't continue the series, but this is more of a contemporary book that takes place in Hollywood, and there's a lot going on in the description, so I'm just going to read the description to you so that you can get the full effect of what the book is about without me messing it up. In LA, girls are being murdered. The Santa Ana winds are blowing a strange energy into the city, and all signs point to fire season. More pressing for Anna Morris, though, is the drudgery of living at home, working part-time at the family store, and contending with her mother's disdain for the acting career Anna knows she's destined for, but that feels more impossible by the day. It's in this suffocating late summer heat that Anya receives a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, an invitation to work for the DeWitt family, one of LA's most influential film dynasties. Soon she's spending her days and nights at their strange villa high in the Hollywood Hills, where she meets Jude, a recluse who is both the family's heir apparent and its most closely guarded secret. There's a magnetism to Jude that Anna cannot resist, despite warning signs that scream like sirens in the night, because the villa holds generations of bloodstained history, and an occult family curse may even live within its walls or within Jude himself. In this city, everyone cuts a deal with the devil. When Anya becomes face to face with the devil of her own, she'll learn just how far she's willing to go to get everything she's ever wanted. So lots of mystery around that, the Hollywood Hills, celebrity and famous families, a bloodstained history, what's going on with Jude himself. And then at the very end, it mentions how everyone cuts deals with the devil. So just lots going on in that. And I really am curious to see what Olivia Blake brings out in this book and brings out with this story, as far as keeping me interested, as far as telling a good haunting story and something kind of dark. So I feel like this is going to be a good kind of fall Halloween read.
We're on to August 18th, and I have one on here even though I've already read it. Amanda did too, and it's a Frida McFadden book. She had originally self-published a lot of her books, and now she's having a lot of them traditionally published by an official publishing contract that she got. So on August 18th, she's re-releasing Brain Damage. And I do remember reading it, but we read it far enough now that I only vaguely remember it. I remember enjoying it. And I know she kind of nips and tucks some of these books when she re-releases them, like things that were bothering her when she was publishing them on her own. And now she has a chance to kind of fiddle with it to make it better in her opinion. And I was going to see if Amanda wanted to potentially read it again, and we can always do it by itself in appreciation of the fact that it's getting released traditionally. I don't normally reread books, but I was interested because I started to think, I don't really remember this. It's just a woman who has a brain injury and she can't really remember what happened to her, but she is desperately trying to remember because she feels that whoever shot her in the head is going to come back to finish the job, basically. I feel like I don't really remember the twist at the end of it, and I like that because then it'll surprise you all over again.
On August 18th, one of my favorite thriller authors, Liv Constantine, which is a sister duo. It's the pen name for a sister duo. Is coming out with a new book called Promise Me Never. And I am so excited. You guys, I will read anything that these sisters write. I just have loved every single thriller book that they have written. They are grippy, they are fun, they are entertaining. All of them have been more on the domestic thriller side, which I just enjoy. I think domestic thrillers, sort of the cattiness of the housewives and all the secrets that they try to hide and uncover and try to pretend that they're perfect. And then the abusive husband or the manipulative and controlling husband that's there. I don't know. It seems like domestic thrillers are just a recipe for disaster. You're following a woman who marries a man and his first wife is deceased. And she starts going down this rabbit hole trying to find out what happened to his first wife. And she ends up moving to a secluded house that he owns and starts uncovering all of these mysteries. And that just sounds like a fun time for a domestic thriller. And I absolutely love the writing of these authors. So I just can't wait to dive into this one. Another really good fall read.
There's another fall type romance that I have written down. It's August 18th and it's called Something About September by Julia McKay. And the town in this book is called Bramley Hollow. It's fall-inspired second chance romance about a woman who returns home after inheriting grandmother's diner. There we go, returning home and inheriting something again. I didn't realize there was one with a romance with that on my list. The contractor she hires turns out to be her high school crush. Always want it to also be like Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore because I love those books. I hope it's in that realm. We'll see. I look forward to reading that.
On August 18th, we are getting Sinister by Veronica Lancet. This is the second book in a series of 3 books. I think they're all standalones, but they're all gothic themed. The first book was Fairy Tale, which I have not read, but I've heard really good things about. And again, it's one of those books that's just been on my TBR for the longest time. She's very good at writing dark gothic romance books, and that's what I've heard. I don't know, but that's what I've heard. And Sinister is a academia dark romance gothic book. That's kind of a lot to put together, but you're following a woman who is going to this private school and she's a little bit of an outcast, and then the love interest is the golden boy that everyone loves and is very popular, and they have to work together to solve, I believe it's a murder at this school, or uncover some deadly mysteries, I think, something it says in the description. But what really intrigues me about this book is the author. I've just heard such good things about Fairy Tale, and I do have the book downloaded on my Kobo. I just haven't read it yet. It is a very long book, so it's kind of intimidating. And it's also hard to fit in very long books that I'm not reading for vlogs because I'm just constantly, I feel like, behind on reading for vlogs. So it's hard for me to try to start a really long book, but it is a book that I really want to read. And this author is very interesting to me. And I do love a dark gothic romance.
August 18th has one called These Walls Remember by Del Sandine. And this is the one I was mentioning earlier, that it's about 2 estranged sisters who inherit a home possessed by the horrors of its dark past. They must work together to survive. And it's described as a chilling Southern Gothic novel. A note warns, do not go into the attic, but of course they do, because they intend to sell the property, divide the proceeds, and go their separate ways. And so they don't listen to the note to, I guess, sell this home and fix it up, but then they end up fighting for their lives because there's something dark in this house. Definitely sounds like a book I'd enjoy.
Another book on August 18th. Y'all, August 18th is a big date. Is The Shadows That Listen by Louisa Carmody, I think is how you say her last name. I'm not sure. But book has angels and demons in it and shadows, like what lives in the shadows. I'm just going to read you a small snippet of the description. Angels and demons are at war and humanity is caught in the middle. The shadows lengthen and they listen. Who will survive the night? From debut author Louisa Carmody comes an unputdownable dystopian romantasy with a slow burn romance and shocking twist. Perfect for fans of Crescent City and Shadow Hunters. So what really got me is the angels and demons battling kind of thing, and the dystopian romantasy with slow burn romance. I think that sounds like really fun and interesting kind of genre mix there. So I am really excited about this release actually, and really intrigued by this book.
August 25th brings a physical arc that me and Amanda both got, and it's Heart of Glass by Jennifer Hillier. We do plan on doing an vlog for this one, so not just an arc review. And I know Amanda hasn't read anything by Jennifer Hillier, so I think she's going to read this one and pick one of the other ones. There's only one other book I haven't read and have wanted to read, which is Jar of Hearts. So I will be reading that in the vlog with this one. I am very excited that I got this, especially since it is signed right there with a little heart. I have loved several of her books. I don't know if I have a particular favorite from her. I think the first one I read by her was Little Secrets, and I did really like that one. I also liked Things We Do in the Dark. Wonderland I had done for, I want to say it was either a summer TBR type video we did, or I remember it could have been when we used to do the TBR jar, but we kept it secret. It could have been that too. And I just realized there are a couple others I haven't read by her. Jar of Hearts is just the one I've been wanting to read, but I forgot she also has one called Creep and another one called Freak, and I have wanted to read those as well. I'll probably still stick with Jar of Hearts though. This one is about a couple girls who years ago were around when there was a carnival killer. Seemingly he had been caught and been put into jail, and then 25 years later the guy who was in jail ends up, I think, saying like it wasn't really him, and he gets released because either there's new evidence or something happens, and then a girl ends up washing up, seemingly another victim, and the girl had washed up before he gets out of jail, so it couldn't have been him. And so the carnival killer is technically still out there, and the girls, I think, are trying to figure out what happened all those years ago, and if they might have clues to figuring out who it is. I love reading her books, so I'm looking forward to doing that vlog.
My final book of this video is a book that I was so lucky to get a signed arc for, and that is Heart of Glass by Jennifer Hillier. I have downloaded some other Jennifer Hillier thrillers. I know Creep is one of them. I've downloaded to my Kobo. I haven't read it yet, but this book sounds really good, and y'all, it's a signed arc. I'm so excited. I think this is my first signed arc, I think. I have to look through my arcs and see, but I'm pretty sure this is the first signed arc that I've received. So that's it. That's my last book in this vlog. And y'all, as I've been going along, I've been making the little strips and putting the books in here. And this TBR jar is out of control. I am gonna have to get a bigger jar because I cannot fit any more in here. I've got to get some of these read. You guys, please, if you have any suggestions on what I can do to help read this down, I would love your input on what you'd like to see, because I need help reading these books. I keep putting more in every other month, and I'm not reading enough to keep up or catch up at all. So help a girl out, y'all. Give me some ideas. What do you want to see with this TBR jar?
And last but certainly not least, on August 25th, one of my favorite authors, Sarah Pinborough, she has a book called They Say a Girl Died Here. I do have the electronic arc. I have been really wanting to read it because I do love her books. She wrote Behind Her Eyes, Cross Her Heart. One I really loved that I did an arc review for was called We Live Here Now. This one is a thrilling genre-bending mystery, and anything genre-bending I'm definitely being signed up for. And it's about two murdered girls, the girls who might be next, in a town with dark secrets. Anna is new in town and caring for her grandmother with dementia. The grandmother starts to claim she knows things about those murders, and the tagline promises there is a huge mind-bending twist. I don't know how much I love that it tells you that ahead of time, because it promises something that I hope it's going to deliver on. We'll see, but I am looking forward to doing that one. I am for sure doing an arc review for that one. Thanks guys for watching all the titles that we talked about. I know for sure there'll be some overlap with me and Amanda, but I'm always curious to see if it's more than even I thought it was, because there's a couple I absolutely know she'll be putting on there. But always curious to see what else she puts on that I didn't think she would put on there. And I hope you saw some titles that you want to read. Was there something that we didn't talk about that you plan on reading? And or any of these books on your TBR? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can see when all of our videos come out. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time.